I was born in 1933, and we lived in Antwerp, Belgium. My father was in the diamond business, and we lived a very comfortable life during those years. And in 1940, Germany declared war because they went into Poland, and the rest of Europe started declaring war. And Germany wanted to invade France, but France on the German border had the Maginot Line, and the Germans figured they would have a tremendous amount of losses in those to fight the French in that area. So what they did, they went sideways and they went to Belgium, and they attacked Belgium, and they conquered the country within a couple of days. Antwerp was basically bombed, and other places as well, and like I said, they conquered the country. Also, where we lived, it's Austin Street. Where we lived, we were across the street from a police station. And the Germans, in their attacks, were bombing it. So you can imagine, we lived right across the street, we lived on the 5th floor, and we saw all this happening. Within a few days, the Germans were coming into Antwerp, and the Wehrmacht, in other words, you had the Nazis as the extreme military force, and he had the Wehrmacht, which was a normal military, came into our building, because it was a big building, and they took over half the building, which basically brought in hundreds of German soldiers to live in our building. Also, the Germans at that time already, in Belgium, we had to wear the Star of David. One day, the commandant came to my mother and he said to her, "Do me a favor, get the hell out of here. You don't know what we Germans are doing to you Jews." My father was a religious man, and he wanted a silly thing. He wanted the sign of God to show him that he should leave. That Saturday, my father goes to the synagogue, and he said he wanted a sign from God, and he gets Galila. Galila is the last calling up to the Torah, which is not that you read from the Torah, but they close the Torah and you put the band around it and cover it. To my father, that was the sign. So he came home, that was on Saturday. He came home and he said to my mother, "We are going to leave on Sunday from this place." After my father got the Aliyah, he went home, and then we took the family out of our home and we went to a friend's house. Then on Monday, my father went back to the house to get the mail to see what was going on. And he got that letter from the German government, and he read what they were requested of him. So he took the letter, put it back into the mailbox, and then he walked out of the house. And we went to the park to sleep there overnight, to stay away from any type of area that we could be found or should be known. We took the Star of David off, that we should not be known that we are Jews. And after we stayed in the park the next day, we went to the railroad station to take a train to go to France. Money we had. I'm not going to say that I know for sure or not. My father may have had diamonds with him, but I'm not sure of it. But we had some cash because we were buying railroad tickets and all kinds of things that we had to go from one place to another. We could not just go without any cash, no belongings. We had one set of clothing and that was it. We actually left and we left everything behind. My grandparents were already older people, and they didn't feel like leaving. How to say, people did not realize the threat of what was going on. Also, that we decided to leave, we could not tell everybody. Couldn't tell anybody that we are leaving, because it would create a lot of danger for us. So we left the country, and my grandparents stayed. Now, one thing we were very lucky at. My father was 6'2", a very handsome man with gray eyes. In a sense, did not look Jewish. Okay? Straight nose, straight features, everything that was supposed to look as a European. And we, when we were little children, we were blondish kids. We had blonde hair, believe it or not. And we left Antwerp, and we went by train, all kinds of transportations, and we went to France. In France, we went to a small village where we stayed in a farm. Now, the farmer that let us stay there had things done in a certain way. One was that during the day we had to be in the forest, because the Germans were traveling all around the villages looking who's there and who's not there. And at night we were able to come back to the farm, and we could sleep over there. And every morning very early we were back and forth in the forest. We stayed there for a period of time, maybe 1 month or 3 months, I can't remember exactly. We ended up in Lyon, which is a city close to, I would say, in the direction of the Swiss border. My father goes, we stayed at the station, and we were waiting for the train. At the last minute, my father remembered he forgot to buy the tickets. So he ran to the ticket outlets, and he bought the tickets, and he came back, and the train that came in left. It was out. So we had to wait for the next train. Imagine we had to wait for a couple of hours. It was not like over here, about 2-3 hours before the next train came. And the biggest fear that happens is, as Jews, we talked a lot of Jewish. So the family, and we were running around, we were little kids. We were running around. Thank goodness we were talking in French. So people left us alone, and we took the next train, and we went to a village next to the Swiss border. When we got to the village, my youngest brother was sick, and we went to a doctor in the village, and he checked my brother out, gave the medication, whatever had to be done, and he asked where we came from. He said, we came from Lyon. He said, you're lying. I said, no, we're not lying. The train that we missed, the Germans stopped in the middle of the way, took everybody off the train and killed them. This was one of the stories that we went through. When we were on the highway, we were walking on the highway, and all of a sudden, as little kids, we started screaming, we got afraid, and we jumped in a ditch next to a tree. We don't have ditches over here. Or in Europe, you have the ditches for the water to go through. And we went down in the ditch, and all of a sudden a plane came down and started shooting at the people. So we also escaped a second time of a dangerous situation. Then we went from that village, we went towards the Swiss border. And on the Swiss border, we saw there Swiss soldiers. And they stopped us, because we were not trying to hide or anything. They stopped us, and they started asking questions. And then they said, "How old is the youngest child?" So we said 5 years old. So the Swiss allowed us to come in, and they took us to a camp, a refugee camp, because the Swiss had a policy at that time not to allow any families who have children, that the child is over 5 years old. So we stayed in that camp for about, I don't know, 3 months or 6 months. My uncle was in the United States and informed the Swiss government that he takes the responsibility of supporting us while we are in Switzerland. The war got over in 1945, and we went back to Belgium. Then, going towards 1947, Russia started rattling their sabers, making a lot of noise. My parents said, "Enough is enough." My mother contacted her brother, which is my uncle, and told him that we want to come to the United States, and he arranged everything, and we came to the United States. Legally, in Europe at the time, the bathroom had a water container on top with a pipe going down into the toilet. So you pull the pole for the water to come down. So after the war, my mother went to her parents' apartment. Somebody else was living there. And she was talking to them that the grandparents lived here and everything, and she said, "Could you excuse me for a moment? I have to go to the bathroom." My mother goes to the bathroom. She stands up on the toilet seat, and she goes into the container of water, and she took out a piece of jewelry that her mother left for her in case she would be coming back. And my mother had it.